In the misty, windswept lands of northern Britain, long before the Romans imposed their will upon the island, thrived a powerful confederation of tribes known as the Brigantes. Their domain was vast and untamed, a rugged landscape of rolling hills, dense forests, and formidable hill forts that dominated the horizon. They were a people of fierce warriors and skilled artisans, their culture rich with intricate metalwork and deep-rooted Celtic traditions. Power among the Brigantes was not always inherited. It was often seized and held through strength, cunning, and strategic alliances. It was into this world of shifting loyalties and tribal power struggles that a woman named Cartimandua emerged as a formidable leader. Her ascent to the throne of the Brigantes was a testament to her sharp political intellect and her profound understanding of power. She ruled not merely as a queen, but as a shrewd diplomat, navigating the treacherous currents of Celtic politics with a steady hand. The year 43 AD marked a pivotal turning point in the history of Britain, as the legions of Emperor Claudius crossed the Channel. Their polished armor and disciplined ranks a stark contrast to the wild fury of the Celtic warriors. The Roman invasion was a relentless machine, systematically crushing resistance and absorbing tribes into its ever-expanding empire. Many Celtic leaders chose defiance and faced annihilation, their hill forts burned and their people enslaved. Others, however, saw the futility of open war against such a formidable foe. Cartimandua, observing the Roman advance from her northern stronghold, made a calculated and controversial decision. She chose not to fight the invaders, but to align with them, becoming a client queen of the Roman Empire. This alliance was a pragmatic move designed to preserve her own power and the autonomy of the Brigantes. By pledging loyalty to Rome, she secured her throne against internal rivals and gained a powerful protector. The Romans, in turn, gained a crucial buffer state in the north, a loyal ally who could help pacify the turbulent frontier. Cartimandua's pro-Roman stance was not universally popular among her people, sowing seeds of dissent that would later bear bitter fruit. While Cartimandua consolidated her power through Roman patronage, another Celtic leader became the face of British resistance. Caractacus, a prince of the Catalani tribe, waged a brilliant and determined guerrilla war against the Roman legions for nearly a decade. He was a charismatic and inspiring commander, rallying disparate tribes to his banner. His name became a symbol of defiance, a beacon of hope for those who refused to bow to Roman authority. The Roman governor, Ostorius Scapula, made the capture of Caractacus his primary objective. He pursued him relentlessly across the rugged terrain of Wales. Finally, in 51 AD, at the Battle of Caer Caradoc, Caractacus's forces were cornered and decisively defeated. The Welsh hills echoed with the clash of steel and the cries of the dying. Though his army was shattered, Caractacus himself managed to escape the battlefield, a fugitive in his own land. He fled north, seeking refuge among the Brigantes, hoping to find sanctuary with Queen Cartimandua. He likely believed that the bonds of shared Celtic heritage would outweigh any political arrangements she had with the enemy. This was a fatal miscalculation. The arrival of the celebrated resistance leader placed Cartimandua in a perilous position. To harbor Caractacus would be a direct defiance of Rome, an act that would bring the full wrath of the legions upon her kingdom. To refuse him would be seen by many of her own people as a betrayal of their shared culture. Cartimandua, ever the pragmatist, weighed her options. Her loyalty was not to a fading dream of Celtic independence, but to the tangible reality of her own power. She made a choice that would seal her name in infamy for centuries to come. She chose to betray her guest. Caractacus, exhausted and seeking aid, was welcomed into the Queen's stronghold, perhaps with feigned hospitality. But the welcome was a trap. Under Cartimanduas' orders, the fugitive prince and his family were seized and placed in chains. The man who had defied an empire was now a helpless captive. Without hesitation, Cartimandua informed the Romans that she had their most wanted enemy in her possession. Ostorius Scapula was overjoyed. The capture of Caraticus was a major political and military victory. The defeated warrior was handed over to the Romans, a bound and humiliated symbol of crushed resistance. His journey to Rome was a spectacle, a testament to the empire's power. Cartimandua's betrayal was richly rewarded by Emperor Claudius. She was showered with wealth and honors, her status as a favored client ruler publicly affirmed. Rome had demonstrated that loyalty to the empire brought immense benefits, just as defiance brought destruction. For a time, Cartimandua's position seemed more secure than ever, her kingdom protected by the might of Roman arms. However, the act of betrayal had profound and destabilizing consequences within her own kingdom. It deeply offended the anti-Roman faction among the Brigantes, a group that was steadily growing in influence. The most significant figure in this faction was Cartimandua's own husband, Venutius Tocnilius. Originally a co-ruler, Venutius was a warrior of considerable renown and held traditional Celtic views on honor. The public humiliation of handing over a fellow Briton to the enemy was an affront he could not stomach. Ideological rift between the queen and her consort widened into a personal chasm. The final break occurred around 57 AD, when Cartimandua, in a move of personal and political audacity, divorced Venutius. She then took his former armor-bearer, a young man named Velicatus, as her new husband and co-ruler. This act was scandalous, a deep insult to Venutius's pride and a violation of social norms. It was the spark that ignited the smoldering embers of civil war. Venutius, now driven by personal vengeance and political ambition, became the champion of the anti-Roman Brigantes. He launched a rebellion, aiming to depose his former wife and seize the throne for himself. The Brigantian kingdom was plunged into a brutal internal conflict, pitting neighbor against neighbor. Cartimandua, facing a serious threat to her rule, immediately appealed to her Roman patrons for assistance. The Romans, invested in maintaining stability on their northern frontier, could not afford to let their client queen fall. They responded by sending auxiliary cohorts to support her forces. The initial battles of the civil war were fierce and bloody. Roman discipline and tactics clashed with the passionate fury of Venutius' rebels. The Roman auxiliaries managed to repel Venutius' initial assaults and rescue the queen from a precarious position. For a time, a tense stalemate settled over the Brigantian lands. The kingdom remained deeply divided, a fractured state held together only by the presence of foreign soldiers. This fragile peace was shattered by events far to the south, in the heart of the empire itself. The year 69 AD became known as the Year of the Four Emperors, a period of intense civil war and instability. Roman legions were recalled from the frontiers to fight for competing claimants to the imperial throne. The province of Britain was drained of troops, its garrisons left weakened and overstretched. Venutius saw his opportunity. With the Romans distracted, he launched a second, far more powerful rebellion. This time, he was leading a popular uprising, drawing support from neighboring tribes. Cartimandua once again found her kingdom overrun by the forces of her ex-husband. Her own loyalist troops were no match for the sheer scale of the rebellion. She sent frantic appeals for help to the Roman governor, but the empire was in turmoil. A small Roman force was dispatched with the sole, urgent mission of rescuing the queen herself. They fought their way through rebel-held territory, reaching Cartimandua just as her last defenses were about to collapse. The Romans successfully evacuated their client queen, spiriting her away to the safety of a Roman fortress. but they were forced to abandon her kingdom. Venutius had won. He seized control of the Brigantian throne, and the kingdom was, for a brief time, independent once more. Cartimandua, the queen who had bet her future on the power of Rome, was now an exile. She disappears from the historical record after her rescue, her ultimate fate unknown. Venutius' victory was short-lived. Once the civil wars in Rome ended, the empire's attention turned back to its rebellious frontiers. A new governor, Quintus Petilius Cerealis, was sent to Britain with a clear mandate to conquer the north. Cerealis led his legions into Brigantian territory, and over the next few years, systematically crushed Venutius' forces. The independent Brigantian kingdom was extinguished, its lands fully absorbed into the Roman province of Britannia. The very independence Venutius had fought for was ultimately lost due to the instability he had exploited. Cartimandua remains one of the most complex and controversial figures in the history of Roman Britain. Was she a traitor who sold her people's freedom for personal gain? Or was she a pragmatic realist who made the only choice available to ensure the survival of her tribe? Her story is a stark reminder of the difficult choices faced by leaders in times of conquest. She navigated a world dominated by male warriors and Roman generals, using diplomacy and intrigue as her primary weapons. Her alliance with Rome brought her 2 decades of power and wealth. Yet, her betrayal of Caratacus and her personal scandals ultimately led to her downfall. The legacy of Queen Cartimandua is a tangled web of loyalty and betrayal, of political survival and personal ambition. She was a ruler who chose collaboration over confrontation, a decision that continues to be debated by historians. Her name is forever linked with the tragic fate of Caratacus and the turbulent birth of Roman Britain. In the annals of history, she is remembered not as a heroic rebel, but as the queen who handed a hero to his enemies. Her tale highlights the brutal realities of imperial expansion and the deep divisions it created within the societies it touched. The winds still sweep across the lonely hills of northern England, whispering tales of the powerful Brigantes and their complicated queen. The hill forts may be ruins, but the story of Cartimandua endures. Her reign was a delicate balancing act, performed on the edge of a sword. She gambled that Roman protection was more valuable than Celtic solidarity. For 20 years, that gamble paid off handsomely. But in the end, the internal divisions she fostered proved to be her undoing. The conflict she ignited with Venutius ultimately destroyed the very kingdom she had sought to preserve. Her personal life and political strategies were inextricably intertwined. The decision to discard Venutius for Bellicatus was not just a matter of the heart. It was a political statement. This move, however, proved to be a catastrophic misjudgment of her husband's influence and the mood of her people. The Romans, for their part, used Cartimandua as effectively as she used them. She was a key piece in their strategy of divide and rule. Her loyalty was a valuable asset, and they invested in protecting it. But when she could no longer hold her kingdom, their primary concern was not her restoration, but the pacification of the region. The rescue of the queen was a matter of honor, but the conquest of the Brigantes was a strategic necessity. The story of Cartimandua and Venutius is a classic tragedy of a power couple torn apart by politics and personal betrayal. Their shared rule devolved into a bitter rivalry that tore their nation in two. Venutius, initially a beneficiary of the Roman alliance, transformed into its most ardent opponent. His rebellion was not just a grab for power, but an ideological crusade. The final Roman conquest under Cerealis was a brutal and methodical affair. The Brigantes, weakened by years of internal conflict, could not mount a unified defense. The dream of an independent north was extinguished for good. Cartimandua's story serves as a powerful counter-narrative to the more romanticized tales of heroic resistance. It reveals the complex and often morally ambiguous choices that local leaders had to make. Not everyone chose the path of Boudica or Caractacus. Some, like Cartimandua, chose a different path, one of accommodation and cooperation. Her ultimate fate remains a mystery, a final, silent chapter in a life filled with drama. Did she regret her choices as she lived out her final years under Roman protection? Or did she believe, until the end, that she had played her hand as best she could? Her impact on the course of British history is undeniable. She was a survivor, a queen who ruled a fierce people in a dangerous time. Her choices echoed through the ages. Her name, whether whispered as traitor or pragmatist, is etched into the story of the Roman conquest of Britain. The tale of her reign is a cautionary one, a lesson in how personal passions can inflame political landscapes. The love, jealousy, and ambition of three people, Cartimandua, Venutius, and Bellocatus, set in motion a chain of events that led to a devastating war. This human drama played out against the epic backdrop of imperial expansion. The Brigantian Civil War was both a personal feud and a proxy war between pro-Roman and anti-Roman factions. It demonstrated the deep fissures that the Roman presence created within British society. Ultimately, the story of Cartimandua is the story of a loss of sovereignty, not just through foreign conquest, but through internal strife. The Brigantes were conquered not only by Roman swords, but by their own divisions. Her reign is a powerful illustration of the complexities of collaboration and resistance in a colonial context. The line between a puppet ruler and a savvy political operator is often a fine one. Cartimandua walked that line for 2 decades, a remarkable feat in itself. Her final fall from power was swift and absolute. The Romans, her great protectors, were ultimately a fair-weather friend. Their support was contingent on her ability to be useful to them. When her kingdom fell into chaos, they saved her life, but not her crown. Conquest of the Brigantes was the final act in a drama that Cartimandua herself had set in motion. The seeds of her own destruction were sown in her greatest triumph. The wealth she received from Rome could not protect her from the hatred of her own husband or the resentment of her people. Her story is a timeless political lesson about the dangers of relying on foreign powers and alienating one's own base of support. She was a queen caught between 2 worlds, the old world of Celtic tribalism and the new world of the Roman Empire. She tried to bridge these 2 worlds and, for a time, succeeded in mastering both. But in the end, the chasm was too wide, and she was consumed by the very forces she had tried to control. The fall of the Brigantes was a significant step in the total Roman subjugation of Britain. It opened up the north for further military campaigns and the establishment of a permanent frontier. Her legacy is therefore deeply ironic. The pro-Roman queen who, through her actions, inadvertently hastened the complete conquest of her people. The story is a testament to the fact that history is rarely a simple story of good versus evil. It is a messy, complicated affair, driven by flawed human beings with complex motivations. Cartimandua was no simple villain, nor was she a hero. She was a queen who made hard choices in a hard time, and the consequences of those choices were profound and far-reaching. Her name will forever be linked to one of the most dramatic episodes in the history of Roman Britain. The echoes of their conflict can still be felt in the ancient landscapes of the north. The final image of Cartimandua is one of tragic isolation, a queen without a kingdom, a ruler without a people. It is a powerful and somber end to a remarkable and controversial reign. The Brigantian saga is a microcosm of the wider story of Roman expansion, a tale of cultural collision, political maneuvering, and the enduring human drama of ambition and betrayal.